Step 1. Learn the standards of audio mixing. Basics of working with microphones. When working with talent such as singers and bands, the first step to get a great and controllable mix is getting the equipment in the right spot for the specific venue. The equipment refers to mainly microphones and speakers. The speakers should be as close to the audience as practical. This means a speaker should never be 10 inches away from the closest audience member's ear and should not be 100 feet away either. It should be in a practical place that still sounds appealing. These people will understand that it will still be very loud in the front. And the main rule of thumb is to seriously use common sense. That is the biggest rule in mixing. Along with keeping that in mind, your next objective is to get the microphones as close to the source as practical. No microphone should be shoved in someone's mouth or guitar amp, but also shouldn't be 10 feet away. For pretty much everything, the closer the mic is to the source, then the better it sounds, unless it just sounds awful or not right, which in that case, use common sense and experiment with slightly different positions of the microphone. Whether that is the case or not, you must always understand where to start. The reason to get the mic as close to the source as practical is to obtain the most acoustic frequencies and gain as possible. Low frequencies like bass or the soul in people's voices are omnidirectional, meaning that they like to spread out and be heard in different directions. This is why you can be leaving the club at night and still hear the bass, but not all the high frequencies, since the high frequencies are inside going one direction and the bass is going everywhere in almost equal amounts. High frequencies are the opposite and are unidirectional, which can make them be heard from farther away if directed right at your ear or mic. So these concepts impact what the microphone hears. The farther you get away from the source, the faster low frequencies get lost compared to high frequencies. This is because the mic is still pointed at the source where the high frequencies are moving straight at it, and the low frequencies have spread out now. Along with this, the microphone will clearly not be as powerful and catch everything, forcing you, the mixer, to have to run everything hot, very loud, putting yourself at risk of feedback or ranging dynamics of loudness with the unpredictable talent moving the mic. Lastly, on the mixing board, whichever channel the microphone is plugged into, how to plug in the microphone will be explained in step 2. There will be a fader assigned to that channel. The fader is the slider that goes up and down. It controls the volume just like the knob on your car's radio, and it goes from as low as infinity, which is silent, to plus 10 decibels, usually, 0, or what is called unity, where you want to try your best and have your fader live for your average show volume. But if you start from infinity and turn up the volume to minus 30 decibels, which will be minus 30 decibels away from 0, very quiet, and the mic is already too loud, then how do you fix this? Well, there will be an attribute knob on every mixing board called either gain or trim, and what this does is change the attenuation of the channel it is assigned to by making the mic louder or quieter, and in turn making it more sensitive or less sensitive. Think of it as another fader, and if you have the gain at the right level, then you should be able to have your fader live at unity. So if the mic is too loud at minus 30 decibels, then turn down the gain knob and put up the fader until you reach unity. If you can't get the mic loud enough, then turn up the gain. Be careful with turning up the gain too much, as that makes the microphone more sensitive and leaves it vulnerable to feedback. If feedback occurs and you cannot get the fader to unity, don't stress over it. The reason why you want the fader at unity is because it makes it much easier to make smaller volume adjustments, but it is not the end of the world if you cannot reach this goal for a particular reason. Understanding this concept will allow you as the mixer to know what to listen for in different mic positions and how to control its volume. Feedback will be explained later. Basics of acoustics. When mixing audio of any sort, it is often not a relevant thought to many listeners of just how much goes into that work of art to make it sound the best it can. The main goal of any mixer is to get a sound from the source that sounds natural. Nothing should stand out, and everything should be crisp and clear, just like how you want it as a regular listener. In live mixing, this is never an easy task, however. Acoustics of the environment a mixer is working in is the second step to finding the right mix after proper placement of speakers and microphones. If the space the event is held in is a large open space with very hard parallel walls, sound will bounce off all these walls at an incredible rate, taking a long time to dissipate and overall sounding like a big mess. This is called reverberation, and can easily be heard by just clapping in a space such as this. It will take a while for the sound to fade away, and with singers, a full band, and an audience, nothing is going to be distinct and heard. Keeping that large example in mind, The opposite of a space like that will give a flat, dead feeling to the room, with no dynamics. The room can still be big, but harder to control, and will have walls or padding that are very soft and fluffy, easily absorbing sound, not letting it bounce back for the listener to hear. This is a much better space for any mixer, as it now gives him or her the control of what the space will sound like, instead of fighting it. If a space feels too dead and doesn't have any feeling, then there are effects inside certain mixing boards that you can use to give the feeling of real dynamics in a room. Reverb, which is a digital representation that is controllable reverberation, is one effect that is used very often in just about all of music. Keeping all this in mind when getting ready before the event, you should play your favourite song that you know word for word and sound for sound at show volume in the venue. Then walk around the venue and just listen to how different the song sounds. Is it clustered and messy? Is it too bassy? Or is there no feel to it and not enough bass? Listening to this will get you ready to know what to listen for, and just how much the acoustic space you are working in is going to impact your sound. Once you go through that, you should then get yourself a microphone and speak through it, saying 1 for bass notes, and 2 for higher notes. This will tell you how your microphones are picking up in the space and how they are reacting to it as well. Basics of equalizing a singer's voice. Now, whether the space is bad or good, a mixer has the ability to mix and EQ, or equalize, sounds. If someone gets on the mic and starts singing, mic in right position, and they sound really deep and muddy, almost unclear in what they are saying, then that means there is too much low end in their voice to sound natural through the speakers. On every mixing board, there is an EQ page, or labeled knobs, that allow you to reduce or gain the volume of specific frequencies. So if someone sounds a little like the example, then the best thing to do is to take away some low frequencies. Keep in mind that the audible range for humans is 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, or 20 kHz. 20 Hz is very low, and 20 kHz is very high. Keep going until you find a sound that you like. If you reduce low frequencies like 200 Hz and it still doesn't sound natural, then just slowly change the frequency to 250 Hz, 300 Hz, 350 Hz, and so on, until it sounds natural. The same concept applies for people that sound shrill, either taking away some high frequencies or adding some lows, and even finding a combination between the two. Something to keep in mind when going through and using EQs on all the microphones is to always try and take away or reduce frequencies than add. When reducing, it is much more controlled, and will make the mix sound cleaner, as opposed to pushing frequencies louder and trying to make them stand out. Also, when raising the volume of frequencies, that will make the overall volume of the mic be louder and more sensitive. You do not want to make the microphone so sensitive that it distorts and sounds awful, and when the mic is louder, there is a stronger chance of feedback. Common frequency problems in people's voices are between 1 kHz to 2 kHz if they sound too harsh. Later on, there will be more information about how much equaling can help in different situations.